Hey guys, Eddie here from Dilleen Property. Today I'm very excited because I want to share a very important video with you. Now, as you may see behind me, I've got the whiteboard here and I haven't done this in quite some time, but this video is all about how you can buy 10 properties within 3 years, starting with just 100,000 in savings or equity. So 10 properties, 3 years, starting with only 100K. Now, before we get started, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice in this video, but as you may know, my name's Eddie Dilleen. I have over 40 investment properties and I'm literally 30 years old right now. Now, I started from nothing. For those of you who know my story already, I won't go into it, but I started from very humble beginnings and pretty much built my portfolio up to over 40 properties by the age of 30. So I'm gonna share with you in this video a strategy, how I built my portfolio. Now, this is part of how I built my portfolio. It's not the entire thing, but here's one way that essentially incorporates recycling deposits and buying properties that have three main key factors, which is buying below market value, buying high capital growth properties, and buying with good, strong cash flow at a high rental yield. So I'm gonna jump right into it and explain how you can buy 10 properties within 3 years. So let's say as an example, you've got 100K. So let's just forget about this side of the board and let's just purely focus on 100K. Now, assuming, let's say you have a borrowing capacity of 6, 7, 800,000, whatever, something like that roughly. What I would do to get 10 properties in 3 years would be to take my 100K that I've got, split it in half. Now I've got 2 lots of 50K, and if I buy a property, let's say property number 1, for 300,000 roughly, let's assume that I bought it well, so I bought it under market value. Let's assume that it has a good cash flow, good yield, and let's assume that it's in a metro area such as Brisbane or Adelaide or something like that. But if I buy it, I want to buy it for 300 and I want it to be worth 340, 350, 360. Because if I can get it 10 to 20% under what it's worth, then I'm making money on the way in. So all these properties assume that they are bought under market value from the get-go. That's part of the 3 keys philosophy strategy that I stick to, buying under market value properties. So this, to get 10 properties in 3 years, you've got to buy under market value. They've got to have good cash flow and they've got to be in metro growth markets that are going through a cycle or about to go through a cycle. So let's say I bought property number 1 and I did a 10% deposit, hypothetically, right? So 10% of what's 10% of 300,000? 30K. Now, stamp duty might be 10 grand, legal fees, let's just round it up. You probably get into this for about 45 or around that. And bear in mind, there's some lenders out there that'll allow you to do a 5% deposit as well. So yes, you pay lenders, mortgage insurance, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into it. But if you're maximizing our capital and we're going to have a property that has a good, strong cash flow, so it's going to be positive geared regardless of what, or at least neutral to positive geared. So this 300K property is going to rent out for 360, 380 per week, almost 400 a week. So now we've got property number 1. We spent 50K roughly, probably less. And let's say we did it again. And let's say within, this is the years right here, obviously, year 1, year 2, year 3. Let's say we bought it in we bought these in 1 or 2 months. So we bought 2 properties in one, we signed the contracts on the same week as an example. Now, part of this strategy is obviously you buying it below market value with a good cash flow and a good metro market. So let's say these are both in Brisbane, hypothetically. Within 6 months, within even 3 months, I have personally, and many of clients that I've worked with on a day-to-day basis, go back and they order a revaluation on these 2 properties, right? So some people have done it in 2 months, 3 months, some clients do it in 6 months, some people do it in 12 months. So let's just assume you're able to do this hypothetically, the first one within, let's say worst case scenario, let's say it's 8 months as an example. So we get these both revalued and let's say they get valued at 350, roughly. Now, sometimes you can get them valued within like a month at 350. If you bought them under market value and they're worth 350 to begin with, you're just refinancing them. But there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm not going to cover everything right now. This is just the basic strategy of it. So you refinance these two properties. Let's say you do a new 90% loan, right? So you might have to pay a difference of LMI again, but you do 350. So your property's worth 350, not 300, and you got 50K. You can take generally 90% or up to sometimes 90% out. But if you get them valued at 350, 360, you're literally pulling the 50K that you put in both of these properties back out. So let's say as an example, you get about at 360. I'm going to give you a bit of an example here. So just down the bottom, so if you get it valued at 360 and you do, right then your loan would have been only 270, right? So your loan would have been 270. I don't know if you can see that, but your loan would have been 270. Now 360, now you do a new 90% loan. So 360 minus 10%, it's roughly 36,000. Let's just round it up to 40K. So your loan is at 320 now, right? Let's just round up to 4 grand. Let's say it's LMI. So your loan's so the new 90% of 360 is 320, and 320 minus your 270 is what? $50,000. Look, it's magic, $50,000. So we've got the 50K that was this side out, right? We've got 50K back out of it. And now we've done the same thing on this one. So we've got 50K, now we've got the 100K again, because 2 lots of 50K that we've got out of these two properties, we've refinanced them, topped up the loans, or we've done a side loan, restructured those 2 loans, and now we've got 100K to do it again. So we go off and we buy 2 more properties. Happy days. Now, this could be, let's say if you did these 2 properties in month 8 as an example. So if this is year 1, this is year 2, month 8's probably like right here. Let's say there was no stall behind the 2 properties. We can find properties, or you're working with a quality buyer's agent as an example, that can help you out throughout the process and source your properties, or if you're finding your own, whatever, it's all good. But you go off and you buy another 2 properties. So now we've got 4 properties, and it was only 8 months, right? It might be 10 months, let's say 9, 10 months by the time that happens. But you catch where I'm going here. So before a year, we've got 4 properties, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all worth 360, 370 kind of range because we bought them well. Now, at month number, let's say now a month goes by, we're at month number 11 or 12, so we're pretty much at 1 year. We take out the equity again because it's been, as an example, 3-4 months since we bought them. We were at month 8 when we bought these. Now we take them out we take equity out at month 12 or 13. So we're just past 1 year, and we go off. We've got the 100K out. Same process again. We've refinanced them, restructured, and this is not assuming the market's gone up. This is just assuming that we're taking the equity out that was already in there to begin with. So in a year, like as an example, 2022 right now, guys, the Brisbane market, Adelaide market, in the last 12 months, they've gone up 30% in most regions. So in some suburbs, they've gone up 50% in the last 12 months. But let's assume that no growth happened. Like this is doing it with no growth. Just past year 1, we go off and we've got 100K. Let's say, for argument's sake, we buy a duplex. We buy a property that is 2 properties on 1 title. I own about 4 or 5 of these duplexes myself throughout Brisbane, Adelaide, except I own a duplex in Sydney now as well. But in Brisbane, Adelaide, you can get duplexes for like, sometimes Adelaide, you can get them cheaper. Brisbane, you can get them at like 550, 600 in the current market. And that, let's say that 550K duplex is renting out for like 650 because you've got 2 different rental incomes. So all these properties, you want to have a good minimum 5, 6, 7% yield. I'd be aiming for 6 and above, but worst case scenario, you get away with a 5. So we go off and buy a duplex. We use what? The 100K. We buy a duplex for 600. What's 10%? 60K. Legal fees, stamp duty. We're probably only spending 85, not 100. But let's just round it up again. Worst case scenario. Now, yes, you're doing LMI on this. Yes, different people out there, you're watching this video, you probably have different views about LMI, but whatever. It's up. Like I've used LMI a lot. Worked out pretty well. I believe in getting in the market when you can, and as long as you've got a safety buffer and the right strategy. So safety buffers include keeping money in the accounts, like having good, strong cash flow. No matter what, all these properties must have good cash flow, yields of 5, 6, 7%. If the interest rates are 3% and your yields are 6% or 7%, even if they went up, you still got a good buffer in there, and you're buying good quality assets in metro locations, so you've got an exit strategy if anything were to go wrong. So now, where are we at? We're probably at like month 14, if I'm not mistaken, month 15. We bought a duplex, and yes, that's one purchase, a little bit less admin, a little bit less stress, but you got two residences. They're on one title, yes, but you've got two different tenants living there. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 properties, and it is 14, 15 months. So yeah, this is just, going through the rough basics. Now, let's assume, once again, we bought this property 10% under what it's worth, which isn't that hard to do if you know what you're doing. It's extremely hard to do if you've never done it before, but that's where you can contact someone like myself, me, or another buyer's agent, feel free, but you got to make sure that they walk the talk, know the stuff, and there's a reason why I go on Current Affair, Channel 9, Channel 7, etc., because I've done this many times before. Now, before I go on to property number 7 and 8, I want to remind you that when building my portfolio, I've got 43 investment properties right now in different states, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Gold Coast, etc., etc. I did not only do this. I did not just use equity. This is showing you this is a simple video, formula on how you can use 100K to buy 10 properties in 3 years. That's all it is. I've done this many times, and I've bought, even in the last 18 months, like over a dozen properties. I guess I'm just saying this because I want you to know, whoever's watching, that I've saved up genuine deposits. I worked 1, 2, 3 jobs at a time to work my ass off and save up genuine deposits. Meaning, if I'd work 2 jobs, I'd save a whole salary in a year. So every year I was saving like 1 or 2 deposits because I was living frugal, etc., etc. So building my portfolio to over 40 properties, I didn't just use equity. I have saved up probably like 20 deposits. I have used probably bought the other 20 using equity, but I've saved up 20 genuine deposits over the last decade. So just want to let you know that I haven't just used equity. There'll be a lot of haters that comment on this video. Feel free. I don't care what you say. But for the people that are out there that want to better their situation and invest in property and have a positive attitude, this video is for you. So we're back at property number 7 and 8. Now we've got the duplex revalued, take it up to 90% or 80%, whatever. And we pull out, let's say we pull out the 100K again, roughly. If you take it up, if you get it valued at, let's say 700, new 90% LVR or 80%, whatever. But you took out, let's say, rounded up to 100K. We had a bit of money left over anyway, but let's just say we got 100K again. We go off and buy property number 7 and 8. And roughly in that time frame, if my memory serves correct, we were at like month 15, 16, we're at a year and a half. Let's say it takes 2 months to acquire this. We're at 2 years now. And we go off and buy 2 more properties worth 300. Now we're at property number 7 and 8 as an example. We've just recycled the deposits again and again and again. So this isn't assuming, just to pause for a second, this strategy isn't assuming that the market's gone up. This is just revaluing the properties. And this isn't assuming that you've saved more money. Like between here and here is almost a year and a half, 2 years. So when I was doing this strategy, I saved up as well. I still worked my ass off and continue to save. If I have positive income from this one by 4 or 5 grand, this one 3 grand, 4 grand, 5 grand, if I have positive income, that'll help you save, but you've got to, if you're willing to sacrifice 3 years, put your head down and actually do this, you can do it a lot quicker, right? This is just a strategy. But while I'm explaining this, don't forget that you've got to refinance. Refinancing can be a pain in the butt. So it's really up to the person who's doing this. I did this strategy many times, but I didn't take no for an answer. When I'd buy these 2 properties at 300, bear in mind, here's a top tip of the day as well. If you buy a property at 300, you can take this property right here to 5 different banks, right? Let's say you go with Commonwealth Bank first, fantastic. But you go back in 6 months, 8 months, if they only give you a valuation of, let's say, 320, because sometimes banks give you different valuations. There's a range of value to all properties. So what I've personally done before is take one property, I take it to 4 different banks, I contact a broker that has experience with doing this. Make sure your broker, whoever is out there, has 6, 10, 15 properties, themselves as well. If you want help with a broker, contact myself, put you in touch with my mortgage broker who's helped me and is part of the team here. So they can order a valuation from like Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, NAB, St. George, whichever one comes in at what other ones are market relative and actually selling at the time at 360, 350, you might have to refinance over to that bank. So doing this multiple times, yes, you might have to refinance from Westpac to Commonwealth to St. George to all these other things. But I'm just trying to give you a heads up. It can be easy, but there is a lot of hurdles that you may overcome. I've overcome a lot of hurdles to get to over 40 properties, as you can imagine. So yes, it can be easy, but you've got to have the right team around you and you've got to really, persistent with it and continue moving forward. So back to property number 8. This was literally probably at the around 2-year mark or 2 and a bit year mark. Let's say there's a delay, 6 months goes wrong, and now it took 6 or 8 months to get the equity out of these 2 because we're only bought them at like year 2 anyway. Let's say there's a delay. We then get the equity out finally after 8 months or 10 months because we've still got a year left before we hit the end of year 3. We get the equity out, we go off and buy another duplex for 600, hypothetically. So we bought a duplex for 600 and that's 2 tenants in it, 2 different residences. So we've got 10 properties. We've got 10 properties in 3 years. 10 properties in 3 years. Now, bear in mind as well, with this formula, with this strategy, again, they've got to have good cash flow, good yield. They've got to be bought under market value between 10 to 15 to 20% as an example to revalue property. But in 3 years as an example, guys, if you can save as an example, let's say hypothetically, you can save $600 a week in savings, right? $600 a week over a year, 30 grand. Now, if you did do that, by the end of year 3, you'd have 90,000. That's enough to go off and buy at least 1, maybe 2 more, right? So you could be at 12. And bear in mind, guys, at year 3 or year 2.5, you've only took equity out of this property once. If you're really hungry and you really want to push your portfolio far and you're aggressive and you've built up confidence over the years, you could go back, refinance, pull out more equity out of this because it's been 3 years. Think about what's happened over the last 12 to 18 months in states that have gone through huge growth cycles and are still going through them, like Brisbane or Adelaide as an example, or Sydney or whatever. 3 years ago, some of the properties prices were like 70% less than what they are today. So if, let's say, assume there was growth during this 3-year period, which I firmly believe there's going to be continuous growth in Brisbane and Adelaide because they're very affordable metro markets compared to Sydney and Melbourne, you could go back, take another 100K out of that, go off and buy 12, 13, and then like you could do that multiple times. I took equity out of properties 2-3 times before. It's not like you are able to do that if your loan to value ratios stack up and if you can get the finance. So another part of this video before I let you go is a person's borrowing capacity. You might be out there thinking, well, how the hell do you go off and buy so many properties? Yes, I get where the deposits are coming from, Eddie, but what about your borrowing power? This strategy as an example, like when I got up to the first like 9, 10 properties, I was only on an average kind of income of like, I worked 2 jobs, but I was on probably like 80K, 75K as an example. But I worked 2 jobs at sometimes to get that. So I got up to 10 properties plus at that kind of salary range. If you're, let's say, making 70K, 80K, whatever it is. You might not be on that now, you might be younger, you might be on way more than that. But your borrowing capacity overall time, again, disclaimer, I'm not a broker or financial advisor. I'm not giving you financial advice here. This is just simple strategies that I've used to grow my portfolio. You can stretch your borrowing power. You can go from the big tier lenders like the CBA, the Westpac, the St. George, etc. And you can go down to the second tier lenders. Eventually, like I got cut off with NAB and St. George and Commonwealth Bank in the beginning. Then I went to the second tier lenders. And then worst case, after you max out with the second tier, you can go to the third tier lenders. The third tier lenders are ones such as Latrobe, Liberty, Pepper, Money, Granite, all those ones as an example. Yes, they have higher interest rates. Yes, there's pros and cons with all banks and lenders that you go to. But you've got to have a strategic formula to go from the big bank to the second bank to the third bank. So this is the video, this is a strategy on how you can buy 10 properties in 3 years. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please comment below. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. I hope this has provided a bit of insight into a small part of how I've grown my portfolio. Again, if you can save genuine deposits along the way, if you can save a deposit in a year by putting $500 a week away and you've got 25K at the end of the year, you then will have 25K and you can use that as a 10% deposit or whatever it is. So there's a lot of variables in this video, of course, but this is just the basics of how you can go 10 properties in 3 years, and it's possible because I've done it and a lot of clients have done this same strategy that I've personally worked with myself. Jump on the website, check out the testimonials for people who have done this strategy. And of course, again, we're talking about buying existing properties here, not off the plan, not brand new properties, existing properties below market value with high capital growth in metro markets with good cash flow. Bye for now. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.